Hey there, Aubrey. What's going on?
I'm doing great, Lindsay. How are you?
Good to hear it. Aubrey, when is the last time you wrote an essay? Was that in school
Oh, it's
or?
been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess in college. I don't think I've
Mm.
written any essays since. What about you?
No, not really. My essay writing days are over, thank goodness.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
I did have to write an essay. I took a test similar to IELTS for French, the French
oh,
CST, in
okay.
order to be qualified to teach French. And I wrote essays very similar to the task 2 essay that
Ooh.
you guys have to write in French. So yeah, that's the most recent essay that I wrote
Right. And
actually.
was that also, I mean, for many of our listeners, they feel that writing is the hardest part of the IELTS test. Was it the same for you for the French test?
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
absolutely. It definitely was the hardest. Speaking was difficult as well, but writing those essays was the hardest. You
Hmm.
had to, your grammar had to be excellent, the vocabulary, and I was sort of out of the habit of writing because I hadn't been, it had been a while since I was out of college. So I was in the same boat as a lot of
Yes.
you listening to this podcast.
I love it. So today is going to be a tips episode, right? Sometimes it's just really fun to get some quick and dirty tips here, right? I love it.
Yes,
But
exactly. And we often have students asking us, sharing with us that writing is their biggest challenge. Maybe they've gotten the scores they need on every other section of the exam, but not
yes,
writing. It's still holding
yes.
them back. So we have come up with our 3 most important tips to score 7 or higher on the writing test.
Yeah, and I can't wait to share those. But first, guys, go ahead and hit the follow button right here on IELTS Energy. If you love our show, maybe you have IELTS coming up in 30 days, 60 days, 1 year. It doesn't matter what your trajectory is. We're here to get you started with the exam. So make sure you hit follow so we come up into your daily schedule. All right?
Absolutely. All
Mm-hmm.
right, let's dive in, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Our first tip is about brainstorming. A
Yes.
lot of students want to be able to start writing right away, especially if you get a topic that you're excited about, you feel like you have a lot of vocabulary, a lot of ideas, you might want to dive in right away and just start writing that essay. Why
Yeah.
is that a mistake, Lindsay?
It's so very tempting, right? You're so
Yeah.
excited that you got this question and you actually have ideas, right? But the
Yeah.
problem with doing that is that your essay needs to be organized and well planned. And if you just
Exactly.
start writing, there's no way it's going to achieve that goal. Okay.
Exactly. Every idea that you include must be supported with details and examples. So if you start writing without planning your essay, without brainstorming, it would be really easy to include multiple ideas for your opinion without supporting them well enough.
Yeah. So again, we need to stick to our brainstorm step. And we teach you all of these steps in a 3-step system inside of our course. And there are bits and pieces of the strategy around on the podcast, of course. But basically, you don't want to waste time trying to come up with better ideas or better examples. We do the brainstorming ahead of time. Okay.
Exactly. And right, choose the first good idea you come up with and stick to it. You really don't have time if you think of a better idea to change, right?
That's true.
When you're brainstorming, you're going to make sure that you can come up with supporting details and examples for the idea you chose. If you can't during that brainstorm, that's when you switch to a new idea that you can support. If you come up with supporting details and examples, start writing and stick to it. The examiner doesn't care if that's the best idea anyone has ever come up with in history, just as long as you support it well.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we're nervous on an exam, we can look for perfection in our essay, right? But we don't need
Absolutely.
perfection. We need to understand, we need to reverse engineer from the scoring system exactly what gets you the band 7 or higher and give the essay those elements. Okay.
Exactly. And keep in mind, you don't have 20 minutes to brainstorm, right? 1 to 2 minutes brainstorming your task 1, 5 minutes to brainstorm your task 2 essay. You only have an hour for both of these essays. So you have to practice ahead of time so that you can do this in a very limited amount of time. So definitely don't go on test day knowing you need to brainstorm, but never having done this before for
my
any
gosh.
essays. This is a skill that must be practiced.
Yes, and we bring you through the whole practice step in our course, but make sure no matter how you're learning it, you are learning it. You're preparing with the brainstorm practice. What would be number 2?
Exactly.
What's our second quick tip?
All right. 2 is on task 2 to always include your opinion, right? We see this mistake more than any other, that students don't always include their opinion or it's not clear and consistent throughout the essay. So you want to start by coming up with your thesis statement or main point and figure out what you're trying to say. But the next thing you do is decide your opinion on the issue.
Okay. And so is this true no matter what kind of essay we're writing, argument essay,
Yes.
opinion essay, doesn't
Yes.
matter?
And that's really what trips students up the most, is that some essays will say, they'll like give the issue and then they'll say, what is your opinion?
Yeah.
But a lot of them don't. It'll say like, what are the advantages and disadvantages? And there's not that extra sentence that says, what is your opinion?
Yeah.
But in the instructions for task 2, you are told to give your opinion. And in the scoring system, it's a big part of your task response score that your opinion is clear and consistent.
Ooh.
So you might not have that reminder, share your opinion, but you have to know, no matter what task 2 essay you're writing, you have to include your opinion.
That's very sneaky of them that they don't
It really
necessarily.
is.
So we need to know all the layers. We need the instructions for task 2, the question itself. We need
The
our
scoring
preparation
system.
stage, the scoring system.
Yes.
There's a lot that goes into this. So you're not just walking in on test day, reading the question and answering it. That's how native speakers get 6s, right? And it does happen, right?
Yes, exactly. So the best thing to do, especially if you're writing an argument essay where you're going to provide support for both sides, is to use like a column where they're very separate and clear and organized. And you have an idea supporting one side of the issue in one column, and then details, examples that would support it. And then in the other column, you're going to brainstorm an idea that supports the other side of the issue with details and examples. And then each of those columns would become their own body paragraph.
Okay, good. So it's all about that setup, but the opinion has to be there, right, Aubrey?
Exactly, right? In the body paragraph where you share the side of the issue you agree with, you are going to state your opinion again. It should be in the introduction, the body paragraph where you shared that side that you agree with, and then restated, paraphrased in the conclusion. And it has to stay consistent. It can't change.
Okay. Anything else we need to know about including your own opinion?
Yeah, there's a lot to this. So definitely you could search opinion here on the podcast. We've done quite a few episodes to make sure you're really clear about how to do this well to get the highest task score you can. In our 3 Keys IELTS system, we show you how to do this for every type of essay. But no matter what, definitely cement in your mind right now, whatever task 2 essay I write, I am going to include my opinion.
Perfect. Love it. All right, Aubrey, we're back from break. So what would be our third quick tip for today's episode?
Third is to time your essay practice. And if you have a year to study, you don't need to time it yet.
Yeah.
But eventually you will need to be timing essay practice. Far too many students go to the test center on test day, and they're used to taking all the time they need to write their essays, and suddenly you only have an hour for both, and they're not able to do it in that amount of time.
No, that's heartbreaking. Okay.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
don't practice the wrong way for too long. I agree with what you said, Aubrey. If you're a year out, then we're really working on our fluency at that point, right? You've got a full year. You're not quite getting into test strategy quite yet. But as soon as you get into test strategy, at least 60 days ahead of the exam,
Yes.
we are starting to time ourselves, right?
Exactly. You need to get a feel for how long this is going to take. You're not going to have a timing device on you. So you really need to sort of be able to feel how long that takes. There will be a clock on the wall, or a clock if you're taking the computer delivered exam, they'll be on the computer, but you don't want to have to be glancing at that every other moment. You need to be able to feel how long that 20 minutes for task 1 is, how long that 40 minutes for task 2 feels.
Right. And also breaking down the stages. How long? We know that if for task 1, we should brainstorm for 2 to 3 minutes. So how long does 2 to 3 minutes feel like, right? What does that feel like?
And then you'll have 20 minutes for that entire essay. What does that feel like for task 2? As we said, you'll brainstorm for 5 minutes. You need to know, it needs to feel like, okay, I feel like I've spent about 5 minutes on this brainstorm.
Yeah.
I need to start writing.
And then we'll be writing for 40 minutes. What does that feel like? These are not things we learn with one practice session. This is repeated practice multiple times a week over multiple weeks. Okay.
Exactly. And there's so much confidence that comes with knowing that you can write write both of those essays in that hour, that you're very comfortable knowing how long that feels and, being able to do it in the amount of time. If you go on test day and the quickest you've ever been able to write a task 2 is 2 hours, you're not going to feel confident.
100%. That's why the students that we've seen who have found real success, they really do treat IELTS prep like it's another job, like it's a part-time job. We're doing
Absolutely.
a couple of hours of preparation 5 to 6 times a week with a clear study plan. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So here's a trick. If it is taking you too long to write your essays, right? You're timing yourself, and I've had students who are like, I feel like there's nothing I can do to write these 2 essays in an hour. There's a couple things I want you to think about. You have to figure out where you can shave off time. So for example, are you thinking of extra ideas that you don't end up using? Cut that. You don't have time for that, right? Or are you thinking of several examples and then taking time to choose the one you think is best? You don't have time for that. That could be cut.
That's a really good point, Aubrey. I love the idea. And this could be another episode entirely that we could cover another day in more depth. But how to
trim the fat.
Trim the fat. Trim the fat. Save yourself some time. Shave off a little time. We'll come back to that another day.
Definitely. I love that idea.
Yeah, this is good. This has been 3 great tips. I love it. Guys, listen again if you feel like you missed anything here. But in the meantime, go over to IELTS Energy 1564, Why Restraint is Vital for IELTS Task 2 Opinions, and find out the answer to that question. Okay.
Yes, a lot more details about how to include your opinion. You don't want to miss that episode.
All right, Aubrey, any final takeaway that we need to know? Timing matters, process matters, right?
Absolutely, right? All 3 of these tips could be the keys to help you move from the 5.5 or 6 you're getting on IELTS writing up to the 7 or higher you need. So make sure you're doing all of this as part of your IELTS preparation.
All right, really good stuff. Thanks for being on the mic together, Aubrey. I'll see you back here very soon. All right?
Awesome. See you next time.
Take care. Bye.